All right, this proof is a little bit different than some of the proofs we've done so far. So we're going to write down all of the given information in one statement. C is the midpoint of BD, and AC is perpendicular to BD. And the reason we can write that is that that was everything that was given to us. Then they're going to give us some things that are helping us. They're telling us that BC is congruent to DC. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those in the triangle and think about why they might be telling us that those two pieces are congruent. And the place to look, if you're not really sure, the place to look is to come back to everything you wrote in the given. So we already wrote that C is the midpoint of BD. So this line BD, since C is the midpoint, that tells us that these two pieces have to be congruent. So that is our definition of midpoint. And then they tell us that angle ACB and angle ACD are right angles. So we can mark those. ACB is right and ACD is right. And we have to have a reason for knowing that those are right, so we're going to come back up to our given information. We already used C as the midpoint of BD, but we've not yet used AC perpendicular to BD. Well, we know that perpendicular tells us that there are right angles, so that must be our definition of perpendicular. And then they've given us that angle ACB is congruent to angle ACD, and they gave us the reason that all right angles are congruent, which we agree with. We know that they're both 90 degrees, so they must be congruent. The next statement they haven't given us, but they've given us that we're using the reflexive property. So that tells us that we have to be able to mark side AC in our triangle. So we can come write that statement that AC is congruent to AC, and we know that because of the reflexive property which they gave us. So if we come back up and look at our to prove statement, they're asking us to prove that angle BAC is congruent to angle DAC. But right now we only have enough information to show that those two triangles are congruent. And they're telling us that should be our next statement. So they're saying triangle BAC is congruent to triangle DAC. And we have to think of the reason for that. And our reason is side angle side. And then in our final statement, now we can come back. Our last statement always has to be the thing we're trying to prove. So we are trying to prove that angle BAC is congruent to angle DAC. And now that we know those two triangles are congruent, we can say, yes, we know that BAC is congruent to DAC because congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent.